Right, hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports for our first ever fan cam with Carl Usher, who is a Forever Sports presenter. He's at the stadium, was at the game, and unfortunately, being a Sharks fan, didn't have the best of times there in a Sharks jersey. So brave man, braver than most. But look, Carl, not the best day at the office for you guys. Yeah, no, fair. But I mean, and one of those games where I think as you said, by the time you got there, um, 21-0
And
down.
already know it's over.
Not where you want to be, but I think give it credit to the Sharks. Came back pretty nicely in the second half and made things quite competitive.
Yeah, I think there were some key changes in the second half that once it happened, I was quite happy with it. Our midfield for the past few weeks now has been quite miserable. And I thought that when Jeremy Ward came on for Bernard, it was a big change. I don't think Bernard has been as good as he probably could have been for the Sharks for a while. And I just don't see him as a 13. But Jeremy Ward, he brought a bit of an impact and quite some big hits in the second half from him on the Glasgow players. So it's good to see.
And also, Murray Costa getting a bit of a run out. First one for the youngsters as well. I didn't think it was too bad either.
Yeah. No, I thought the first half the Sharks were, very ill-disciplined, but also the yellow card I don't think helped very much. But yeah, the second half they really kind of pulled it together. Not enough, and they still have a lot to work on. But at the same time, it did kind of feel like Glasgow went to sleep a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think
yeah.
Probably could have been a lot more ruthless. I think could Glasgow. I mean, they had every chance to really sort of put the game away. It definitely shouldn't. I mean, not that it was ever sort of really in doubt, but definitely, Sharks sort of feeling like they got a bit of momentum, and it shouldn't have been like that. They should have put it to bed quite a lot. But I mean, one thing that I think South African fans will probably be quite chuffed with is that it looks like lineouts were a bit messy, but the scrums were very solid from the Sharks, and I think that'll always be a big sort of avenue for South African teams to use.
Yeah, the lineouts for the Sharks were pretty awful today. I mean, I can't really remember that many that they actually won. But yeah, no, the scrums were good. It's a bit hard to move a 135 kg player like Thomas du Toit, so you kind of expect it, to be honest. But that's at least something that they can build on. But they really need to sort out their lineouts. They were awful today.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that shouldn't be a difficult fix in theory, but you can't ever compete. You want to compete, especially going over to the northern hemisphere. I mean, speak us through the conditions. It was supposed to be very wet. I mean, from the looks of it now, it looks like things have sort of maybe dried up a bit. But what were the conditions like?
The field was wet. It actually didn't rain that much while I've been here. Although before the match, I mean, there are pools of water everywhere. But during the match, there was very little rain. So I think that wasn't a massive factor. I thought the Sharks' handling was a bit lacking at times, but I don't think that was due to a wet ball. I think that was just trying to overplay the game because they were so far behind, and being put under a lot of pressure by Glasgow. But it's not warm. It's not warm at the moment. I think it's about 10 degrees. So coming over here, it's against a ref they've never really, been refed by. It's going to be a big ask for a Sharks team with no Springboks against a Glasgow team with all of their international players available to them.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it'll be a very different story back in Durban.
Yeah, so we lost you a little bit in the last bit there, but you make a good point about the officials. I think it's something that a lot of South African teams are struggling a little bit with this weekend in terms of the difference in officiating. And we saw PFC Buthelezi talking to the referee a lot today. Do you think it's just a case of a different interpretation, or what do you think the biggest thing with the refereeing is, and the differences that we might see?
I think there will be a level of difference in interpretation, but something that I've noticed from all the way back in 2011 World Cup is South Africa and South African teams struggled to adapt to a referee that don't allow them to play their normal game. And it's something that they will have to deal with in this competition because it's going to happen. And if they don't adapt, they're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's a major Amazing thing. And then I mean, playing with crowd and stuff like that. I mean, what's the crowd like? I mean, I don't know what. I mean, what's. I mean, it's quite a different sort of atmosphere because I think we used to the very big stadiums down here, the very sort of packed to the rafters, and whereas these stadiums are much more intimate, much sort of the crowds a bit closer, not as many
Yeah.
people, but very close on the action.
Yeah, no, I was in the north stand front row. But you still, because it's an athletics track, you still feel quite removed from the field.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a much smaller stadium than say Kings Park, which is huge. So, but I mean, I was chatting to a couple of the Glasgow fans, and they're all really nice, and they were just enjoying the game. A lot, yeah. It was kind of like a much more of a family atmosphere. There were a lot of families here watching the game, which was really nice.
It's quite different, I suppose, from even going to New Zealand and Australia. Given the rivalry, that it was always supposed to be quite a hostile, environment. And Super Rugby was always very sort of, yeah, I said quite a hostile place to go to. So I suppose it must be quite a different sort of, probably quite a nicer place for the South African teams to go play, where there doesn't seem to be that sort of that. I mean, Scotland and South Africa have never been a massive rivalry, so you're not going to have that sort of edge within the crowd.
Yeah, the teams are going to have to adapt quickly if they want to start winning any matches over here.
No, look, it's not been a good start, and
No.
yeah, look, and the Sharks now going off to Wales and stuff like that. But just sort of, what are your sort of final thoughts on the takeaways? Are there any things that you saw which you think, what, that's something we can work with? That's something that can potentially be improved on.
Well, I think the second half will be quite a bit of encouragement for them because they were staring down the barrel of quite a big deficit, and in the second half, I think they won the second half in terms of points. And I mean, if they can do that with their Springboks coming back, I think it's not all doom and gloom, but it's not a good start. But I think they'll be massively bolstered, obviously, by the Springboks coming back. And I think they will become the team once they're back that will actually take South Africa forward in the competition. Because I don't see the way the Bulls are playing; they're not getting many Springboks back, so I don't see them being much of a threat this year. I think the Sharks have the best opportunity if they play well when their Boks come back.
Cool. Well, there we go. Thank you very much for jumping on. I'm glad you got to the game eventually and got to see some of the action stuff like that.
That's all right.
And
Took me a while.
We'll see you inside a studio very soon for one of the games.
Yeah. Cheers, mate.
Cool. Have a good one, Ed. Cheers.